Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it is Your Impact Attack, and I hope you had a Merry Christmas and you got everything you wanted because TNA didn't give you Jack. It didn't give us Jack. And we're not quite in the new year yet, so we're just going to be hanging out in the limbo portion of 2024, where we're just wanting everything to start fresh. And who is we? We are the VBC collectively. That is the V, the vet, Jamie Williams. The B, the tag team partner, Brandon, with the hot tag through the internet. Brandon, what's going on?
Ooh, man, that's a hot tag, pal. How you doing, pal? Yeah, they pretty much gave us nothing, just like last week. I'm having PTSD to last year, pal.
Yep, some things never change. The gifts that keep on not being given. And of course, to share this holiday misery with us is the C, the chat. They are here with us as they always are, whether they're here or not. They're here. They're here in our hearts. They're here in our minds. They're here in YouTube and Twitch. They're here. And who do we have with us as we're filing in on this special last Impact Attack of 2024?
Let's see who we got with us tonight. We got Liz. We got Labrat. See, we got Javi Uchiha. But of course, it's still early. We're hanging. We're chilling. We got the OG Foundation here, which we can easily build upon as this night goes on. Whoop, whoop.
I'm also seeing a Todd Brantley, the comment king. Don't forget that to make it a nice 4 horsemen.
Ooh, there he is, pal. What's up, Todd? Good to see you. Whoop, whoop.
That's right. It's always good when Todd gets a chance to join us, and yeah, it's not different. Oh, and we got the original C coming in right in the right under the wire of the introductions.
Yeet, yeet. What's up, Con? Good to see you, pal. Whoop, whoop.
All right. Yeah. So that's yeah. We've got another show for you, even though we got no show. And that's just what we do. Like I said, hopefully everybody is if you're with us now, that means that you've done what I said and you've been safe and you've been careful, and this holiday season you've avoided the crazies at least long enough to survive to hear about another Impact Clip show. So congratulations on that. And we're thankful that you're here to do it. So, like I said, we've got content for you. We've got news. We've got an alternate universe version of Impact. That is, you can't even argue that it's not better than the real version because there was no real version. By default, it is. But I think that you're going to like what you have this week, especially if you remember last week, Brandon crafted a delicious holiday meal of an Impact show, and he's going to follow it up this week, and it's probably going to be maybe even better. And then, of course, we have the weekly question from Chris Winland. Thank you very much. This week's question's interesting in the sense that I feel like he already knows the answer, but it's tough coming up with questions every single week to ask us, and we appreciate it. But we will say, I think I can speak for Brandon. You tell me if I don't, but you don't have to come up with a question every week just to do a question every week. If you've got a real good question, by all means, let us know. Don't feel pressured to come up with anything. It'll be all right. But we'll still answer the question this week. Let's see. So what do you say we start out with a little bit of news? And all the news that I found worthy of talking about this week isn't really that worthy of talking about this week. It's just that it's all kind of related to the same thing, which is expiring contracts and total nonstop action. So let's look at a little bit of that. But before that, I should ask, um, Brandon, did you see anything this week that was particularly newsworthy? Any memos slide across the desk saying, "Hey, please read this"? Anything notable? Anything you'd like to comment on? Maybe it doesn't even have to be about wrestling. Any newsworthy anything that popped up. We're at the end of the year now.
Man, there is one kind of thing I heard go off over on especially on X over the internet, but that would get us way off topic. And long story short, we'd be here for about 4 hours. So I don't really want to get into that.
All right. Well, there you go. Whatever that is, we're not getting into it. So then let's just stick with the old basic news. All right. So number one, I guess we should. Well, this is a nothing story. So let's start with that because it's AJ Francis. This is him basically posting on X, what's next for AJ Francis, and I didn't click on it, but they summarized it for me, so I can just tell you that he basically is saying that he doesn't, he's not telling us what he's going to do in 2025. So got to stay tuned to the AJ Francis show to see what he's going to do, saying he could make a return to NXT. He could go back to WWE's main roster. He could re-sign with TNA, and he could even go make it AJEW, because apparently he was one of a few people, such as like Baron Corbin or whatever, that was backstage at World's End this weekend. So people are hanging out places, fueling the rumor mill, the speculation.
It's all speculation. We don't know.
Right. And we also, another thing we know is that he's not the only person. Well, he's not the only person whose contract is coming up. And allegedly, people are they're like on their way out. Jordan Grace, for example, Josh Alexander, like vocally displeased with the company. Like, kind of, it feels like around this time, earlier in the year, or even all the way back to last year, but he's just, because he signed his contract or whatever, he's riding it out. And they kind of been treating him like that. Mike Bailey's out. Kushida's done. Rhino's done. So for a company that is, in the past couple months, TNA there's been a narrative push that TNA is doing better than ever. So why does everybody want to leave? I think that's the question that we're looking at here.
Right, and with them being a lot more private, it's hard to get a little bit more deets on it.
Yeah. So, you're right. You're right, Todd. That's not news, but that's what we got. And it ties into, furthermore, this is a little bit of something funny, because every time that Brandon punches up Impact, he likes to use a certain person that has not been seen in TNA in forever, and that being Kevin Knight. So now Kevin Knight currently is getting ready to, his contract in New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to be expiring. But this coming week on Wrestle Kingdom on January 4th, he and Kushida are the NJPW Junior IWGP Tag Team Champions currently. So they're set to defend their title at Wrestle Kingdom. And pretty soon, he will be departing. Well, not departing, just his contract will be up, so he could potentially depart. Could he come back to TNA? TNA could have been using him, but Kushida walked out, and he's not continuing with TNA. So Do you think that Kevin Knight would go if Kushida is Kevin Knight only been in TNA because of his relationship with Kushida and Kushida's, you know, TNA contract and those things? Was this part of it? Like, hey, use Kevin Knight. Like, what's the deal? Would he follow suit? So TNA possibly not even a landing spot, even if he doesn't stay with New Japan. Perhaps he doesn't come back to TNA anymore either. What do you think about that?
Oof, that would be a loss for TNA. If they lost Kushida and Knight, that would be that'd be a problem because you got a good veteran like Kushida and an up and comer like Knight who could really add something to their roster and actually help elevate people. Man, hopefully they get that shit worked out.
Well, I doubt it. Also, the idea of these guys as an international champion level tag team in another company, and what did TNA ever really do with that? They just stuck them with machine guns in 8-man tags, or they mixed up, like different combinations of 2 or 3 of them.
As soon as the machine guns left, they should have elevated Kushida and Knight as a team.
Right. Can you imagine the team is called the Intergalactic Jet Setters, but could you imagine a series of matches with them and like ABC, for example? Like that could have been something that you would have been talking about in TNA, like, oh, okay, these have some good tag team matches here, some modern classics perhaps. We didn't get any of that. It's just the same old, nothing. Or them versus, Fat Eddie and Fat Myers. Like, that would have been something. Anything
better than what we got.
Yeah, which was nothing. Like, what's your memorable tag team feud of this year? Right. Rest my case. Why you even have tag team belts? Why don't you just get rid of them? You don't care. You're not going to do anything with them, so I don't get it. And then, as part of the, you could file this under my category of, we got a comment from the Comic King. So news to you that they were a tag team. Interesting. Are we going to downgrade you to comment Prince? I don't know. But yes, they have been. They have been a tag team for like 2 years. And finally, as far as TNA departures and potential departures, now file this under, I didn't even know that this guy still worked there, but they're reporting, Fightful Select, that is reporting that Bhupinder Gujjar will become a free agent on New Year's Day as his contract expires tomorrow. So
best $5 in the business, pal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this is actually interesting because they're apparently the only people that cover Mr. Gujjar, including TNA, because I haven't seen this guy since like some random battle royal or something. But apparently what they're saying is that even though last year, we're going to talk, we talked about last week, the One to Watch award. Okay, nice, Todd. Nice. I'm glad to know you have a life as you sit here watching us. So anyway, like he won that award last year, the One to Watch award. Bhupinder Gujjar did. And we watched him, and what did he do?
Nothing.
Exactly. And that's kind of like, you guys are the ones giving these fake awards to these fake people in this fake company, and all you got to do is you put this guy on Explosion, like most of the time. I mean, I didn't know that. I don't watch Explosion. So is the winner of that award is that guy going to be the star of Explosion? So does that mean that uh, Leon Slater is going to be the new anchor for for Explosion in 2025? Like,
They're gonna rename Explosion to Goodger Night Heat.
huh? Yeah. Um. Well, anyway, you definitely know that if you've been watching the Impact Attack, you definitely know that I, at least, don't share most people's optimism for the future of TNA as far as like the content that they're providing. Um, yeah, they've supposedly they've done a couple houses or whatever, but you look at what you're actually getting and you look at the way the talent is reacting. Um, I don't think that if there is any momentum, I don't think it's going to be sustained. And it's baffling what they're doing with the talent that they do have. Not that I didn't think Gujar was going to turn the world around, but it was pretty plainly obvious to us that he's somebody that, hey, here's a young guy. Well, he's 30 now, still young in the world terms, but they were treating him like he was like, you know, 22 years old or something. Like he just showed up and he's brand new at this or something, and he's, it's they could have gotten more. They could have gotten more. But that's the story of TNA, and it's only getting worse, in my opinion. So, who am I less optimistic about, TNA or AEW? All right, good question. What about it, Brandon? Who would you say you're less optimistic about?
Honestly, I would say AEW because TNA they can at least what they're doing, they can at least at the very least they can keep their head afloat. With AEW, if there's a few threads that if they get severed, they're fucked. And they're kind of hanging on by them at the moment. And they need to kind of re-strengthen, rebuild, and kind of refocus on getting an audience back and getting their product hot again. Otherwise, like in the next few years, when their media rights deal comes up, they might be in some trouble if they don't get things straightened up now.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I can't. I don't disagree with what you said, but I can't agree that I'm more optimistic about TNA because they've. I mean, th- this is a company that tapes a month of content at once, and we still have to watch the kind of shit that we did for the past 2 weeks.
Very true. But at the same time, TNA's kind of proven themselves like the cockroach of professional wrestling. They ain't going anywhere.
Mm, yeah, I
Like
suppose.
like you think they're done, and all of a sudden they find a way to come back.
Right, but they also aren't, like a cockroach, they stay mostly out of sight. And it's only a rare time when you see one. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing. Like the reason it's part of the reason why they've existed so long is because nobody cares. But for some reason, they just keep getting funded. That's everybody else's waste of money, but it could be used for, nefarious tax write-off purposes or something. Um, AEW secured a media rights deal on major cable television and a streaming service that's also major. All that stuff is, regardless of what you think, of what you see when you turn on the TV or pretty soon Max every week. Um, Yeah, you can find that. You know, you want to you want to make a a comment like a Canadian channel just picked TNA over AEW. Why don't you tell me that channel without googling it? I know it. Do you? But I know where AEW is going to be. So all it takes is for them to get people there. I mean, TNA couldn't sit people down at gunpoint and get them to watch this shit. So I'm much less optimistic about TNA. But if we're just talking about, if the question was about whether they're going to exist or not, it's kind of a toss up. But if you're talking about the future of like, what do I have to watch every week? And what's going to further somebody's career? I mean, TNA's fumbled more balls than there are sports to fumble balls in. So I have no reason to think that, you know, that's going to change going forward, because they have like more tools in the toolbox, and instead of building stuff, they're just, you know, it's they're tearing stuff down actually. So not the least bit inspired by TNA's business decisions. And also we made the point of how anytime they try to do anything that gets some sort of buzz, then they immediately cool it off. Last year, they changed the name back to TNA, and then what'd they do? We had to review like a month worth of garbage content. So even if you wanted to like...
it was way more than a month. Way more than a month.
Oh, TNA is back. Oh, let me tune in and watch. Oh, what is this? Best of Impact? What? If you even have Access TV and you tried to watch it, what were you going to see? You were going to see clip shows. Then this year, you know, the big return, the big return of Tessa Blanchard, and then what? Clip shows. It's like no capitalization on the things that get people talking. So, you know, why not hold off those things until you're ready to put out new content? Or as you're taping stuff, why don't you just tape more stuff, knowing that you're going to be taking a break? You know, I don't know. Instead of taping on like one weekend, hey, why don't you tape a whole week? That way you'll have like, you know, 2 months of content in the can. I don't know. Oh yeah, and they didn't put the belt on Joe Hendry, which they're gonna count on, if they even do that at Genesis, which they probably will. But if they do that, then they're gonna expect people to care. It's too late. You cooled them off. You had the handshake deal with NXT. You cooled that off. You cooled off Joe Hendry. You had Tessa Blanchard return, and you cooled it off with 2 weeks of clip shows. You know, you're the proverbial like person just blowing on the coffee because it's too hot. And it's not even that hot. So anyway, I hope that answers the question. I have no optimism. But speaking of questions, now would be a good time to go to the weekly Chris Windland question. And it's pretty simple, but it's something that, because we cover TNA, we've had to talk about multiple times. That's why I say I'm not sure how necessary this question is, because I think he kind of knows. But it's always worth revisiting, I suppose, especially considering the timely return of Tessa Blanchard. But anyway, the question this week from Chris Winland is: intergender matches. Have you ever been in such, aside from during training? Thoughts on these types of bouts in general. And he wants us to have a safe and good new year, and he thanks us for all we do. Thank you, Chris. Firstly, Lab Rat, no updates on the Moose figure, no emails. You will be the first to know. Secondly, intergender matches. Have I ever been in one apart from training? No. What about you?
Hmm. Oh yeah, I did. It was actually a live match in front of a crowd. However, it's booked to where, well, the crowd understood who my character was, that I was just this arrogant, head up my own ass douchebag who thought I was better than everybody else. And all of a sudden, I'm in the ring with a woman. How would that character play this off? And that's what we did. I got cocky, I got arrogant. And then during the match, when I was, she took advantage of those opportunities to, get some in on me, but then I immediately cut her back down. And then the finish was, it looked like we built to something where it looked like she was about to finally catch me, but then, I ended up going over. I think I did something. I think I did like a hair pull or something like that led into the finish.
All right. So was that what was the do you remember what the follow-up was for that particular thing, or was that the end of it?
Nah, that was more of a one-off because it was like a music venue club show.
Okay. Well, how did you what did you think of that? I mean, was it any different for you than like a normal match?
A little bit, and it taught me a lot about trying to portray realism and make what you're doing in the ring as believable as possible. Like, I actually learned a big lesson that night.
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, so I didn't have any matches with like what you're describing, but I had to train alongside, many women because there wasn't a special women only training. So everybody had to just get thrown in and work with each other. Um, but so yeah, so now as for the second part, thoughts on these types of bouts in general, I assume he's talking about like from an audience perspective of like, okay, so now I've paid for a ticket and this is what I'm getting. Um, but before we get into that part of it, was there anything else you wanted to, talk about the experience of, being, actually involved in it, or maybe if you'd ever seen other, like you've been around other, maybe other ones happened that you weren't actually in, but like maybe you were part of the angle or just close to the people involved.
Man, I can't really remember any off the top of my head, but like I just remember the big thing was like that night was like I learned a huge lesson about how to not just intergender wrestling, but making things believable and logical to make the crowd like be able to suspend their disbelief and believe that what they're seeing is real.
Well, that is a good segue into thoughts on these types of bouts in general. Um,
I mean, yes, that stuff like you got it. Like, okay, it's regardless of how feel about that type of thing. The visual is it's a man wrestling a woman. How do you make this work and make it believable?
yes. Well, that is always at least it used to be the idea in wrestling when the business is a little more protected, but it's been lax in recent years. It's a funny question just because uh, TNA is the company that doesn't seem like they'll just throw it out there like it's not even, they won't even promote it. It's just on tonight.
Yep. And to answer Todd's question, that only happened one time, and that was on a show, like in front of a live audience.
So, I think that for me, everything is situational in terms of like the appearance. It's one thing to have like, what TNA did when they had Brian Cage and Tessa Blanchard, right? Which is patently ridiculous. But
I mean, yeah, you just look at him, it's like, come on.
right. And it wasn't like, oh, this is a situation now. It's, oh yeah, this is just a match that's happening, and that they treated it like a match. They just had a match with moves to each other.
There was a way they could have built and structured that match and the story of the match where Tessa's just this, like, yeah, I know I'm in there, I'm gonna get my ass kicked, but I'm not going down. You have to kill me. Well, then Brian Cage ends up killing her and beats her.
That's not what happened, as we all know. And as Todd says, since you mentioned, you think TNA kind of killed the whole intergender gimmick with that match. Well, I mean, killed is a strong word, but you definitely, like, I know
very strongly wounded.
In their mind, if in their mind it's like, this is the desperation of a floundering company, which is to my point earlier. Like, they did this not because anybody traditionally thought it would be a good idea. They did it because they knew that if they did it, they'd be the first person to do it. So they were trying to make history, but they were making a wrong kind of history that shouldn't have been made. You know, it's not a good idea, for a lot of reasons. But kill the gimmick? No gimmick's been killed. All you got to do is wait until the right time to represent a gimmick, which is going to, lead into my larger point, but go ahead.
You could have, like, I thought, I started thinking, like, for Brian Cage and Tessa, you could have went with the Austin Brett finish from WrestleMania 13, where just Tessa refuses to give up, and she gets beat so bad she passes out.
Yep, another great visual. And I'm sure one that, according to people's opinions of Tessa Blanchard, a lot of people would have liked to see. But they didn't do that. She just went over. So, here's the thing. When you have something like an intergender match, the match is probably, if you're, let me rephrase this. If you're doing it correctly, if you're booking it correctly, and this is true of almost any match, but if you're booking it correctly and you have something like in modern wrestling where you have weeks of television that are supposed to build to something that people will purchase, so that the TV is acting as the advertisement, the infomercial for the event that you are either going to attend in person or you are going to pay for the privilege to watch on premium services. Okay. The match, what happens in the match is much less important than what gets you to purchase that ticket. So in the real world, the amount of it's either like a celebrity stunt thing that is looked at as like a circus and a joke, or it's something that is like built up to and promoted. There's like, you could look at it as the Billie Jean King thing or the China celebrity boxing thing. Which one of those would you rather be in terms of promotion? So if you're doing something in a company like WWE, say, where you wanted to have a high profile intergender match, it should be something like, the woman should be campaigning to make this happen, and everyone else should be campaigning for it not to happen. And that should be your entire storyline. Like,
that's how you build a baby face, pal.
All the WWE officials saying, no, we can't sanction this. And then the woman saying, well, why not? And the WWE be like, why not? And then the heel male wrestler would be like, yeah, why not? And then all this other stuff. And you get to the point where the storyline is that it won't happen. You have to tell people it won't happen. And you have to keep making it build it to the point where the fans think it's basically their idea and they're the ones that are making the match happen because of their support and their outcry and whatever. And here's the best part of that whole thing. If you try this and you don't get the engagement and reaction that you want, like the fans don't care, then you can not do it. You can not do it as long as you want, as a shoot or as kayfabe. You could build it for an entire year. And like maybe if nobody's interested at first and you keep teasing it every now and then throughout, and then maybe if it picks up steam, then you can do it at a better time, or you could just drop it forever, like and never get brought up and let the fans say, "Hey, whatever happened to that?" You know, and then
and if it ever decides to heat up again, hey, we can pull it right out and get it going again.
Right. The problem is the entire wrestling business has been hot-shotted for the past 30 years. So everything is about, well, let's just do it now. If we have an idea, let's do it now. But, which is great, except for now used to be down the road. It only becomes now when it's now. But at one time, it was the future. And you still are going to have...
the past? No, we're looking at now. We are here now.
We are now. That was then. We missed it. When? Just now.
What are you looking at? We're looking at now, sir.
Yeah. So like, yeah. Yeah. Spaceballs the movie. So if you put something off because you know that you're like, yeah, you want to promote a match now for an upcoming event. But after that is over, you still have another week after that, and another week, and another week. And what are you going to do then? So everything doesn't have to be now. It's okay sometimes to have the idea and save it. But I think for intergender wrestling specifically, you can make that a huge event. It could be, I'll just throw two names out there, just two blonde white people I just thought of. Okay. Charlotte Flair and Logan Paul. Just throwing it out there.
Right? That's one, if you look at it from a visual perspective, just looking at the two of them side by side, it's believable.
Right. And you know that, if it's, in a shoot that Charlotte would get destroyed, but that's exactly what drives your narrative of why you're not doing it in the story. WWE won't sanction this. Like, this isn't what we do. We have specific divisions for a reason, yada, yada, yada. And then Charlotte's going to be like, you didn't say that when China was beating people up. And then, that may be I'm just throwing that out. I don't know if they would be willing to go to that sore subject, because
or how about this?
You don't want people thinking about how sad it was, but
yep. Or Charlotte could say, you're not saying that now when Rhea's beating the shit out of Dom.
Right. And those kind of things. Well, that's another one that's an obvious one, like that you would do, right? Like as a featured match. And at this point, it's been built up enough. But they haven't not gone with the idea that Rhea wants, like, you just know she wants to kick his ass, but she's not said in official capacity that, I want to have a wrestling match with rules with Dominic Mysterio. Because why would she? Why should she need to do that? If she can get her hands on him at any time they're at work together and kick his ass and not worry about repercussions or even possibly losing, then why would she want a match? It wouldn't even make sense for her to ask for a match with Dom. Right?
Very true. When she can get her hands on him and beat the shit out of him at any time.
Right. So that's another problem with the booking, is that you have to get rid of all of that stuff. Like, you have to stop making everybody attack each other backstage all of the time in every single angle, no matter whether it's top, bottom, or middle of the card. You have to reestablish that there's some sort of system in place of like rules, and then like repercussions like fines or suspensions or things. Like you have to rebuild your entire ecosystem of wrestling on your television shows, and then you can start getting more interesting content based around that rather than the same old two people stand in there and do a promo, or somebody's being interviewed and somebody walks into the interview and interrupts the promo, or somebody's found laying on the ground backstage and referees run up and call for help. Like, it's the same shit on every wrestling show all of the time. But instead of all that bullshit, you could be having like little vignette meetings of things like Charlotte saying like Logan Paul's running his mouth and I want to shut it or whatever, and then Adam Pearce being like, no, you can't do that or whatever. You know, I'm just saying, like, you turn what could be considered boring administrative content into your show.
You take the real life intergender issue and you make that the story.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you know, it wasn't there's lots of things that happen to make other things happen. Breaking Bad wasn't all just Walter sitting in a trailer cooking meth.
Right.
There's like other things that happened in the show, you know?
His relationship with other characters and their stories and relationships with other characters.
Yeah, related to their jobs. Like his brother-in-law,
I never saw Breaking Bad, so I can't comment on the specifics of it, but I just know, like, from the writing, like, okay, you have these other characters and their stories and their motivations and everything intertwines with each other and kind of goes from there. It's like, that's good writing.
Yeah, so we got to figure these things out. But that's the whole thing with intergender wrestling is once you get in there, yeah, we all know that, you know, you shouldn't, you know, it should be done. The story should be told a certain way. The man is stronger and the woman has to get over somehow and and avoid getting pummeled. But that's once you've gotten to that point, that's the easier part. The harder part is doing it in a way that would be believable that it could even happen. And as far as TNA goes, like I said, they'll just do like a random mixed 6-person tag and just be like, yeah. We'll just have you taking bumps, just randomly taking bumps to some chick, some mid-card chick. They won't even acknowledge it. It's not like a mixed tag. It's a mixed intergender. So, like,
well, to be fair, if Masha's bumping around, it's believable because she's been established like that. To an extent.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, it's not even usually her. It'd be like somebody else, like, just doing it. It's Aya Brookside or something. You just don't do that. So, but yeah. So my thoughts are don't do it. Because it's the same reason you don't. The same reason you don't do anything, because it's not a good idea. You can do it, just doesn't mean you should. Like, your kids want ice cream for dinner. Of course you can make a bowl of ice cream and give it to them for dinner, but don't do that, right? Just don't. No matter how lazy or a bad parent you are, don't just give your kid ice cream for dinner just because they want it. So
you're there to be their parent, not their friend.
That's right. So thank you again to Chris Winland for the question. Any final thoughts on that topic, Brandon, or did we kind of cover it?
I mean, yeah, pretty much covered it, but I really think, but again, you know, with anything in wrestling, if you approach it the right way, if you try to do everything you can to make it as believable and realistic as possible, you can make anything in wrestling work. You just have to have that respect for it and not insult intelligence and execute it the right way.
Well, with that being said, we're definitely not in the place for that, because here's TNA's week 2 of Best of 2024. I'll quickly run down what they put on the show, but it's not going to matter ultimately. they're going to start with giving you Dolph and Josh from Emergence, the Iron Man match. Uh, I mean, not the whole thing. They're going to give you 20 minutes or so of it, but they're going to do that first. And then they're going to present the award for X Division Star of the Year, Mustafa Ali. Hey, congratulations. Is this another guy that's not in the company anymore?
He gone.
Yeah. He was there to accept this. So I don't know. Maybe they gave it to him months ago. But yeah. Next they gave you, to celebrate this, they gave you the Ali versus Chris Sabin match for No Surrender. Then they award the Knockouts Tag Team of the Year.
Question: since Ali went over Chris Sabin, does that make Ali Kevin Nash?
In many ways, yes. I mean, he might have even used a taser in his match, for what I remember. I don't remember. He definitely had a bunch of Secret Service guys flying into the picture trying to, shenanigans. But so, Knockouts Tag Team of the Year is Spitfire. As if there were other, what would have been the other choice?
The only one I could think of would be Masha and Alicia, but they're broken up now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, there you have. Now I get why they would, pick Spitfire, because aren't they the champions right now? So it's just further promotion of this, bullshit team or whatever. But like, if even if they weren't, or even if let's say Spitfire was finished up with the company in a Mustafa Ali like way, right? And they weren't the champions, and they didn't really have any plans for him going forward. Now you could, and you just know, Brandon, you just know that TNA wouldn't do this. Why? Because it's an interesting idea. But you give the award to a tag team that was broken up already, because they did spend the majority of the time as a team. So they're getting rewarded for that, but now they have to accept the award in each other's faces and get into an argument about it. That's for these little like short 30-second to 45-second to 1 minute little promos that they do. That's your only new content you're getting on this whole episode. So you could have got an interaction between Masha and Alicia, but they wouldn't have done that. They would not have done that. I mean, I just thought of that right now. Right as I didn't even think of it when I made the note. I thought of it here. But they are going to have the match, Spitfire versus Masha and Tasha from Victory Road. So, hey, there's your consolation prize. You didn't get any creativity, but you got a rerun of a match. Enjoy it.
1 second, I let my dog in.
Gotcha. All right. So the next award that we get, kind of a layup, Male Wrestler of the Year, Joe Hendry. And what better way to take the guy that got over to the point that WWE wanted to do business, bring him in, do some shows, all this stuff, and you in your infinite wisdom decided, let's cool this shit off. Let's let this, multi-year overnight sensation take even longer to get where he's going. I was just catching them up on the history of how Joe Hendry has won the Male Wrestler of the Year, even though TNA is not really capitalized on anything. He's basically been doing everything himself, and they have been forced to sort of deal with that. So I was just saying, what better way to make that guy look like a star than to just stand him in front of like some random wall with poor lighting and hold a plaque, a shitty little TNA plaque that you're giving to everybody, saying he's male wrestler of the year, as he's wearing a tracksuit. And he's got a black eye and his hair's kind of messed up because he probably just got dressed after a match in a shower. And then they said, hey, we need to film a couple of awards things, so can you stand in front of this boring wall? Of all the times they don't put any lights on there, which I guess I'm happy about in a way. But it definitely just has that look of like, yeah, I definitely don't do video production for a living. And then we can celebrate. We can celebrate of all the things that Joe Hendry did this year. I know the first thing I thought of, Brandon, like for the male wrestler of the year of 2024 for TNA, I remember that random Impact match he had with Fat Eddie Edwards on May 30th. Like that was the one that catapulted him to superstardom, and that's the perfect showcase for everything that he is and is going to be going forward. Maybe not as big of a star as, Leon Slater on Explosion, but he's definitely on his way.
Yeah, let's not try to negotiate a deal with WWE to, hey, can we air a replay of his match with Ethan Page for the NXT title?
No, let's not. That would be like picking up a phone and talking to a person. Finally, they give you the match of the year, and it is Jordan Grace versus Masha Slamovich from Bound for Glory. A fine match, sure. Match of the year in TNA, maybe. I mean, it wasn't, but in a company known for female empowerment, like as we've been talking about throughout the entire episode with Tessa Blanchard and intergender matches, yada 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 yada. They're always been proud of their knockouts, and so that's what they're going with, and that's what you got. So if you missed it at Bound for Glory, you could see it here, but I bet you didn't. So that is what we got to wrap up 2024 and Impact. Even with just doing a clip show, they fumbled it in a couple of different ways that I pointed out. So, is what it is. And what it is what it could have been. And what it could have been was what Brandon did right and did punch up. He punched up something that wasn't even there. He was shadowboxing it, and he ended up with a format that builds upon the shadowboxed format that he made last week, which was very intriguing, if I do say so myself, no bias. I was like, ooh, that's a cliffhanger. I want to see where they go. So perhaps the alternate universe, multiverse version of TNA will be more to your liking. Maybe it will help you as a late Christmas present if all you got was socks and underwear. Maybe it'll help you ring in the new year if you're trying to leave 2024 behind once and for all. But Brandon, without any further ado and vamping, I believe it's time to punch this up.
Yes, sir, pal. So yeah, we are following up on last week's punching up. So let's see, how do we open up this week? Let me go back to the start of the thing.
Well, you have a ketchup packet is how you open it up, because if somebody missed last week, you're just going to have to, there you go. Yeah, get them on board.
All right, so we get that all done. We go to the announce table, run down card for tonight, talk about recent events, give their thoughts. In ring, the System, Santino, Spitfire, Rascals, and Kushida. The System music and entrance. Alicia does the intro promo. Myers and Edwards promo about how they've always gotten the tag titles back every time they have lost them because the system works. You think they're down and they come right back and regain the power. Tasha promo on how her and Alicia are going to win the Knockouts Tag Team Championship in tonight's main event, and that Tessa will take the Knockouts Championship from Masa at Genesis after she wins the #1 Contenders match later. Tessa promo on why she joined the system and how she'll beat Savannah Evans to become #1 contender. Moose promo on how the system continues to gain power after each show. Santino music and entrance with Spitfire, Rascals, and Kushida. Santino puts over how well the system have been doing recently, but says the people beside him, as well as the person he's booked to challenge Moose at Genesis, will dismantle the system. Moose asks who the challenger is, and Santino responds that Moose will know who it is and see that person himself by the end of the night. The heels and babyfaces begin brawling as we go to commercial. Commercial break number 1. We go backstage to the system's locker room. The system discuss who the mystery challenger might be. Moose says that he's not sweating it and he'll take out whoever it is. Match number 1, First Class versus Sami Callihan / PCO versus the Rascals. First Class music and entrance. Sami Callihan, PCO music and entrance. The Rascals music and entrance. Match is thrown out when the Good Hands run in and attack everyone with chairs. Good Hands promo sucking up to Moose about how they just did the system a favor by making sure their TNA Tag Team Championship defense is one-on-one at Genesis. Santino music and entrance. Santino promo where he tells the Good Hands that they just made it worse for the system, and he had Sami Callihan and First Class to the match to make it a 4-way. So we got that going. Backstage, the system's locker room, Moose goes off on JDC for vouching for the Good Hands. Moose says he can start shaking some people down to find out who his mystery opponent is at Genesis. Commercial break number 2, backstage. Moose and the Good Hands. Moose is asking people if they heard anything about who Santino's mystery challenger is. Moose comes across the Good Hands and beats the shit out of them and leaves them laying, which should be the start of a kind of like a multi-show idea angle I had where the Good Hands would try to keep getting in the good graces of Moose, but everything they do fucks things up for the Moose in the system, and then later on the show, he kicks their ass. And they're like, fuck, all right, we'll try again next week.
Well, you know what I like about the show so far is that has Moose not been on it yet? Because it seems like he's been on from the opening all the way till now. And so, I'm on board with that.
Oh, dude, we're closing out with Moose.
Okay. I would have him take Gia's place if I could.
All right, so after that, we go to match number 2. Kevin Knight versus Jonathan Gresham. Kevin Knight, music and entrance. Jonathan Gresham, music and entrance. Kevin Knight over clean. Jonathan Gresham shows signs of frustration, but ultimately shakes Kevin Knight's hand and congratulates him before leaving the ring. Gresham begins hitting himself in the head. As he walks up the ramp, while announcers speculate what might be going through his head after losing 2 weeks in a row to what they consider rookie talent. Then we go to a vignette of Team Elegance, Spa, Manny, Petty Day for them. And then anytime something goes wrong and Ash or Heather get upset, the concierge goes off on the offender. We go backstage to Gia and Ace Austin. Gia asks Ace about last week and Chris Bay's status. Ace puts over Bay and plugs the various ways to help him. But then Ace gets serious and talks about what's real and what's fake in professional wrestling. Ace says that it's real that his best friend is hurt and that it's fake that he and Gia have had to pretend that they're not in a couple for the last several years because people who used to be in management wanted to present Austin as single and available to multiple demographics to get them to tune in thinking they have a chance with him. Ace puts over Gia's talent as a wrestler and says that she's better than being an interviewer and she should be competing for the Knockouts Championship. Gia says that Ace is right and thanks him for telling her the truth before she throws the mic down, and they both storm off. Match number 3, Northern Army.
Well, I just will say, but right before you continue, she's not, by the way, and she shouldn't, but I get it. It's a story. Go on.
And then you go match number 3, the Northern Armory versus Mike Santana, Steve Macklin, Eric Young. Eric Young, music and entrance, Northern Armory. Jump him before he has a chance to get to the ring. Steve, Santana, and Macklin out to make the save. The two groups brawl around the ring. Security runs out to break things up. Santino music and entrance. Santino says that he's rebooking this match for Genesis in a lethal lockdown match. Santino then orders security to let them go and fight. The announcers say that someone has just arrived to the building. Backstage, Moose. Moose is pacing by the back door. JDC Moose informs Moose that a car just pulled up. Moose exits the building to see a limo in the lot. Moose opens the door and drags Johnny Swinger out before he kicks his ass. Commercial break number 3. In
Brent Swinger
ring,
got a limo,
his casino's back, pal.
huh? Oh, all right.
In ring, Nick Nemeth, Joe Hendry, JBL. Nick Nemeth, music and entrance with JBL. Nick apologizes to Hendry for what happened last week with Joe and Ryan and says he had nothing to do with it. And the heat between Joe and Ryan is between Joe and Ryan. Nick begins to talk about what he and JBL are involved in. Joe Hendry, music and entrance with guitar around his neck and carrying a stool and microphone stand. Joe Hendry promo about how he doesn't trust or believe Nick, JBL, or Ryan, and he has a message for them. The production crew helps Joe Hendry set up for an impromptu live performance. Joe Hendry begins playing a song that makes fun of Nick Nemeth, JBL, and Ryan Nemeth. Ryan again jumps Joe from behind and attacks him while Nick and JBL watch. We go to a vignette of Swinger's Palace. He is visibly bruised and cut up while putting over his underground casino. Backstage, the System's locker room. The System discuss who the mystery opponent for Moose might be. Moose says he's going to shake down Santino himself. Match number 4, Tessa Blanchard versus Savannah Evans. Tessa Blanchard music and entrance with Alicia and Tasha. Savannah Evans music and entrance. Savannah is a dominant babyface that Tessa has to keep using cheap heel tactics to cut off and get back control. Tessa over dirty with help from Alicia and Tasha. Post-match, Alicia and Tasha help Tessa beat down Savannah. Masha and Jordan run out to help Savannah clear the System ladies from the ring. Savannah shakes hands with Masha and Jordan to show that she now trusts them and cement her babyface turn. Backstage to this.
Wait, pause. If you didn't see or hear the last week's thing, you contrast what Brandon is doing with Tessa Blanchard, which he put her to work 2 weeks in a row. So that would be like, that's like wrestling 2 matches in like one night or whatever. You put her to work right away, and get her in that ring. And what did they do? They did nothing. They did 2 clip shows, So that just shows you the difference there of like what you would do to like capitalize. He put her in 2 matches and already has a faction. So, or a faction within a faction, because Alicia's already aligned with the System. So now it's like Alicia, Tasha, and Tessa are part of the System. So
I kind of stole that idea from the the Office Ladies podcast.
No, why would I?
Well, they're the System ladies.
Okay. So, yeah, basically that's what you would want to do if you're okay. We just made this signing. We just made this reveal. Let's capitalize on it. Let's do something instead of nothing. So, anyway.
All right, so you go backstage to the System's locker room. Moose is gone while the male members of the faction try to figure out who the challenger might be. On the monitor, they notice a limo has just arrived in the parking lot. And then Myers and Edwards send JDC to see who it is. Our 4th commercial break. We come back in the parking lot. JDC is trying to look through the tinted windows to see who is inside. The back door opens and JDC is pulled inside the limo. It is implied that a fight is happening inside. Match number 5, Frankie Kazarian versus Cody Deaner. Frankie Kazarian music and entrance, Cody Deaner music and entrance. Cody begins to cut his People's Choice promo before Frankie jumps him. Frankie over clean and quick. Quick Frankie promo about how it doesn't matter if the winner is Nemeth or Hendry. He's the man walking out of Genesis as TNA champion. We go to vignette of Rosemary, Havoc, and Crazy Steve. The 3 of them enter the Demon Realm and reminisce about old times. Crazy Steve and Havoc lead Rosemary to a door. Crazy Steve says that all of the answers that Rosemary is looking for are beyond that door, and the 3 of them step through it. Match number 6. Shit,
Did they bring the camera in the Demon Realm, or does a cameraman go in the Demon Realm?
Ooh, you know what? I think they would drag a cameraman with them. That was within their character. They'd like, hey, we want this documented. Come with us.
Okay.
So match number 6. Kushida versus JDC. Kushida music and entrance. JDC music and entrance. JDC doesn't come out. The shot cuts to the limo where the fight is still going on until the limo stops rocking. The ref counts to 10. Kushida over by count out. Yeah, I know that sounded kind of, but the idea is that there's two people fighting inside there, and the fight's now over.
JDC's a pretty man.
And it's a demon cameraman.
Ah,
We go to a pre-tape of Santino at the treehouse. Santino enters the treehouse and sits down alongside the Rascals. The three of them do the smoke circle gimmick before the pre-tape ends. We go back to Gorilla with Moose, with Alicia and Tasha. Moose tells Alicia and Tasha that he trusts them and not to worry about what's going on with JDC because he'll handle it after they win the Knockouts tag team titles. Moose pumps up Alicia and Tasha before he steps out of camera shot. Match number 7, Knockouts Tag Team Championship. Spitfire versus Alicia Edwards and Tasha Steelz. Alicia Edwards and Tasha Steelz music and entrance. Spitfire music and entrance. Alicia and Tasha over after interference from Tessa Blanchard with Tasha pinning Danny. New Knockouts Tag Team Champions, Alicia Edwards and Tasha Steelz. The System Women beat down Spitfire before Masha Slamovich, Jordan Grace, and Savannah Evans run out, which caused Alicia, Tasha, and Tessa to escape through the crowd. You go to the parking lot with Santino, a limo. He goes to the limo. He knocks on the door, and it opens to where Santino can see who's inside, but not the viewer. And then Santino says, Moose is not prepared for this person. Commercial break number 5. New Japan hype video. Announce table. Rundown current Genesis card. Rundown next week's card. In-ring. Moose music and entrance. Oh, I forgot. There's from last week, there is a very, very important retcon that kind of leads into this whole thing. Let me go back to him. I actually got it to pull up. Where we did the whole thing with Santino talking to Ariana on the phone and talked about somebody showing up that he wasn't aware of. Ended up being Andre Chase. That's all gone. And that ends up being with the System standing tall at the end of the show with beating everybody down.
Oh.
And then instead the phone call with him and Ariana, he says something to the effect of, send my regards and thank you to Mr. Heartbreak and Mr. Sledgehammer for getting the deal done. Obviously referencing Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
Obviously.
Oh, no, not at all. We had her wrestle last week and we had her wrestle tonight. And not only wrestle tonight, but do a run and wrestle tonight.
Yeah, remember, Todd, this is the fantasy booking portion. All they did was, nothing.
So, yeah, back to the in-ring with Moose and Santino. See, I had to mention that retcon because that's very important leading into this. So, Moose music and entrance. Moose promo on how he's done with the games and wants to know who he's defending the X Division Championship against. Santino music and entrance. Santino promo putting over the mystery challenger. Santino vaguely puts over the challenger's history with the X Division before he throws it the production crew. And then the video and music hits.
And
AJ Styles music and entrance with AJ dragging an unconscious JDC onto the stage with him. Show goes off the air with AJ Styles and Moose staring each other down.
Wow. He's got that farmer strength, to just drag JDC's dead body.
You got some climate change help there, pal. He's been doing that B12.
Yeah, So yeah, there you go. Now that's a match. AJ Styles versus Moose. I definitely. Well, it's definitely better than the nothing, and it's definitely better than whatever's going to happen at Genesis. What is he gonna? Is he just gonna wrestle? Who? I don't even remember. Who is Moose? Do they even have anything for Moose yet? Did they set anything up?
I don't think they have announced anything for Genesis other than
Hendry and Nemeth.
Hendry and Nemeth, yeah.
So Moose is just going to go out there and have a match with, well, it probably would have been Vikingo, except he got hurt again, I heard. Oh no, there was isn't there supposed to be like wasn't there supposed to be like a contenders X Division contenders match? I forgot.
I don't know. I
Well,
haven't heard anything because they don't promote anything. It's just a clip show after Bound for Glory.
well, the fact that I would forget kind of speaks, for itself. Like if it was heavily promoted as a featured match, then I would probably remember it. So it's definitely not AJ Styles. Definitely not that. So
And to be fair, I would have him go over in that, but then I'd have him go on a run to kind of like kind of revisit his X Division days, and then Moose takes it back on Slammiversary.
yeah. Well, Javi says Moose facing Ace Austin at Genesis, so that's probably what I was thinking of. That 4-way or 5-way or whatever match that they had last time they had a show. They just said, "Here's 5 guys for the number 1 contendership." Because TNA. I'll say it for you, Todd. All right. Well, in any case, real, imagine, fantasy, reality, whatever the thing is, TNA's got some work to do, and I'm not impressed, and it's a struggle to talk about this without going insane. But what helps is all of you guys being here. It's fun to do the show. It's fun to talk to Brandon once a week. It's fun to hang out with the chat once a week. It's fun to cut some promos on some people and make jokes and have a good time. So that's, the real TNA was the fun we had along the way. And we'll do that in 2025. We will continue to give you content whether TNA does or not. Who knows? Even if TNA does go, they finally do, they are stepped on. The proverbial cockroach finally gets stepped on and squished, and they're gone. We may just retool the Impact Attack into something else entirely, rather than to just give up like they always do. That's the HMG commitment, or at least it's on our end. So once again, thank you for, spending your Christmas or your New Year's Eve with us. That is, I hope everybody, I hope your new year will be better than last year. Even if this past year was good, I hope it's better for you. And we look forward to spending that time with you. So if you want to spend time with us, we'll tell you where you can do it, starting with Brandon.
Well, as always, you can catch me on not Twitch, I'm sorry, Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, X, at LG Brandon Whoop. I am also on twitch.tv/LG Brandon Whoop Whoop at least once a week, guaranteed every Wednesday night following the HMG AEW Dynamite watch along, which we do every Wednesday night. And tomorrow night, since it's New Year's Eve, I haven't figured out. It's going to be HMG After Dark. I'm not sure what we're doing. I know I'm going to be trying to work late that night, but obviously not too late because I don't want to be on the road with a lot of the crazies. So yeah, we got something will happen tomorrow night. Not sure what time, not sure what it's going to be, but something will happen for HMG After Dark. And of course, Wednesday, AEW Dynamite watch along, twitch.tv/LG Brandon Whoop Whoop. Thursday, I think we're going to be doing an HMG After Dark. Not sure of what quite yet. Friday night, the first 3-hour HMG SmackDown watch along. That's going to be a rough one to get through.
Late start?
That's when it starts, man. This Friday is when it starts.
No, I said late start. Late start watch along.
Not this week. I finally got my work to not screw around with me. So we're good.
Tell you the truth, you might want to consider getting them to screw around with you.
Possibly.
Well, we'll see after this first 3-hour SmackDown, I guess.
Yes, sir. And then Saturday's kind of a toss-up. I'm not sure what we're doing Saturday night. Might do an 8. Oof.
Wild card, bitches.
Wild card bitches might do TNA, might do HMG After Dark. Don't know yet. Whatever we don't do that night, we're doing Sunday night, pal. And then of course this Monday will be the first Raw on Netflix. Me, you, and Jimmy have talked about it. No Impact Attack that night. We're gonna be watching that Raw, and then that Tuesday morning we will be back with a joint Like It Raw Impact Attack for you guys. So yeah, pal.
All right, supersize. Yeah. So we said whatever we don't do that night, we're doing Sunday night. That's what AJ Styles said to JDC in the limo. So 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 so
Does that mean we're doing Lube tomorrow night?
No promises. They don't want none. They don't want none. But yeah, so that is that. And as for me, at Opinion Haver everywhere. If you want to catch me on HMG, that's gonna be like Brandon said. Well, not this coming Monday, or not this coming Tuesday. This coming Thursday is the Next Level Wrestling review because of New Year's and Ray not wanting to do it on the day. So we're moving that to Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, the normal time, just a different day. And then you could check me out on Sunday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. with Eastern with Jimmy T for The Wreckage, where we cover the whole week of AEW in one show. You could check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers every Friday, except for sometimes on their concrete times of whatever those times are. But like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notified, and then you'll never miss a show. Same thing with Stevie Richards' show. You're going to want to follow along with that. Stevie's doing the best content, interesting, unique content in the wrestling space that people just aren't quite doing, and they're certainly not doing as well as he is. So give the Stevie Richards show a follow. That new stuff every Friday. Nothing this past week, again, I assume because of the holidays. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it. So once again, have a happy new year, but have a safe one. Make sure if you have to go out there, be sure you're vigilant, be sure you're aware. Look both ways and use your turn signals. Do everything that it takes to get you back here in one piece. And for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.